Sleeping in an unheated van during winter should be impossible. Yet thousands of homeless people do it every single night, staying warmer than you'd ever expect, using 12 hacks that cost almost nothing. Here's exactly how they do it. The people who've mastered winter van living didn't read it in a manual. What they discovered completely contradicts everything the outdoor gear industry wants you to believe. Reflective window inserts. Most people sleeping in vans for the first time make the exact same mistake. They pile on blankets, zip up sleeping bags, maybe even run the engine for a while, and they still wake up at 3 in the morning shivering. The reason is glass. Every single window in your van is basically an open door for your body heat. Glass conducts heat 20 times faster than an insulated wall. A standard cargo van has 6 to 8 windows, bleeding roughly 70% of the warmth your body produces straight out into the freezing night air. The solution costs about $4 total. Bubble wrap and aluminum foil. You cut bubble wrap to fit each window exactly. Press it against the glass where it sticks without tape. Then you press aluminum foil over the bubble wrap, shiny side facing inward. The bubble wrap creates thousands of tiny air pockets that block conducted heat loss. The aluminum foil reflects your body heat back into the van. Together, these two layers reduce window heat loss by up to 80%. Veterans cut their inserts with precision, so they pop in and out in under 30 seconds. One guy who had been living in his Ford Transit for 3 winters straight said his window inserts were the single most important thing in his entire setup. Not his sleeping bag, not his blankets. His window inserts. Because without solving the glass problem first, nothing else works properly. The candle heater. You don't always need a massive heat source to warm a small space. A fully insulated van interior is surprisingly compact in terms of air volume. Small air volumes respond to small heat sources in ways that genuinely surprise most people. This is why the candle heater has quietly spread through homeless van communities over the past decade. The setup costs about $6 and takes 10 minutes to build. 2 terracotta flower pots, one slightly larger than the other, 4 tea light candles, and a few small bolts or pebbles. You place the 4 tea lights on a flat, fireproof surface. Stack the smaller terracotta pot upside down over the candles, then nest the larger pot upside down over the smaller one. The gap between the 2 pots allows airflow, which is why you use bolts or pebbles to create that space. The candles heat the inner pot heats the outer pot, and the terracotta stores that heat and releases it slowly into the surrounding air. 4 tea lights under this setup can raise the temperature inside a small enclosed van by 10 to 15 degrees over several hours. Regular candles burn their heat straight upward and lose most of it immediately. The terracotta system acts like a battery, storing heat from the flames and radiating it outward slowly at body level. This trick went viral in survival communities back in 2013. The part most people get wrong is airflow. The pots must have a gap underneath for oxygen. Body heat trapping. Right now, your body is producing between 80 and 100 watts of heat continuously. That's roughly the same output as an old incandescent light bulb. The problem isn't that your body doesn't produce enough heat. The problem is that most sleeping setups let that heat escape faster than your body can produce it. The real game isn't generating more heat, it's trapping what you're already making. The system experienced van dwellers use is built around one principle: reduce the air volume your body has to heat. A sleeping bag does this better than blankets because it creates a sealed envelope around you. But 1 sleeping bag is good, while 2 sleeping bags, one inside the other, is dramatically better. The air gap between the inner and outer bag creates a dead air zone that acts as a thermal barrier. Dead air doesn't move. Air that doesn't move can't carry heat away from your body. Veterans take this further by wearing thermal base layers inside the sleeping bag system. Wool socks, a thermal hat, and thin gloves mean your body is heating a much smaller air volume immediately around your skin. Some experienced van dwellers sleep with their arms tucked against their torso rather than at their sides. One woman who spent 2 winters in a Chevy Express said her layered sleeping bag system kept her comfortable at temperatures well below 0 without any other heat source running. Idling strategy. Running your van engine for heat, done correctly, is one of the most effective warming tools available. Done incorrectly, it kills you. Carbon monoxide poisoning in vehicles kills approximately 430 Americans every single year. And the overwhelming majority of those deaths happen during exactly this scenario. Someone cold, running their engine for warmth, who fell asleep without the right precautions. You can't smell it building up. You can't see it. You just drift off and never wake up. Experienced van dwellers don't avoid engine idling. They systematize it. The technique is called cycle idling. You set an alarm for 3 in the morning, which is statistically the coldest point of any winter night. When the alarm goes off, you run the engine for exactly 15 minutes with one window cracked approximately 1 inch. That 1 inch gap is enough to let carbon monoxide escape without losing significant heat. After 15 minutes, you shut the engine off and go back to sleep. The heat generated during those 15 minutes, combined with a properly insulated van, carries you through until sunrise. Running your engine for 15 minutes burns roughly 0.2 gallons of fuel, about 70 cents at current prices. There's one warning sign every experienced van dweller learns to recognize immediately. When you stop shivering, you are not warming up. You are in serious trouble. Shivering is your body's active defense against cold. When it stops, your body has given up fighting. And that is precisely the moment you need engine heat immediately. Veterans keep their keys within arm's reach of their sleeping position for exactly this reason. They also never park in enclosed spaces, always position their exhaust pipe downwind, and keep a carbon monoxide detector mounted at sleeping height inside the van, not near the ceiling. Carbon monoxide doesn't rise like smoke. It hovers right at face level. Parking position. Where you park matters almost as much as how you insulate. 2 identical vans with identical setups parked in different locations on the same night can experience interior temperature differences of up to 20 degrees. 20 degrees is the gap between uncomfortable and genuinely dangerous. Experienced van dwellers don't just find a legal spot and call it done. They treat parking like a chess game, thinking 3 moves ahead every single night. The first principle is sun positioning. During winter days, even weak sunlight hitting your van's metal body stores measurable heat in the vehicle structure. Veterans park facing southeast during morning hours to maximize sun exposure on the windshield and front panels. By the time they settle in for the night, that stored solar heat is still slowly radiating from the metal into the interior. It sounds minor until you realize it raises your baseline interior temperature by 5 to 8 degrees before you've done anything else. Zero cost, 30 seconds of thoughtful parking. Wind protection is the second principle. Cold wind hitting the metal skin of a van accelerates heat loss through the walls significantly. Veterans look for natural windbreaks. Buildings on the windward side, tree lines, highway sound barriers, anything that breaks direct wind contact with the van's exterior. Parking with the van's nose into the wind rather than broadside reduces the surface area exposed to wind considerably. Hospital parking garages are the gold standard for both principles. They block wind completely. Their concrete structure retains ambient heat from hundreds of daily vehicles, and interior garage temperatures typically run 15 to 20 degrees warmer than open outdoor lots. All that without a single cent spent. My grandfather always said the smartest man in the room isn't the one working hardest, it's the one who figured out how to let the room do the work for him. DIY draft stoppers. Nobody talks about drafts when they talk about van insulation. Everyone focuses on windows, walls, ceiling, floor, and those things matter enormously. But the gaps around door seams, the tiny spaces where van doors meet their frames, those are silent heat thieves that work against everything else you've built. A gap the width of a pencil running the full length of a van door can drain warmth from your interior almost as fast as a cracked window. And most cargo vans have 4 to 6 door seams, each one leaking cold air continuously through the night. The fix is embarrassingly simple. Old towels rolled tightly and pressed against the base of each door from the inside. Spare clothing stuffed into the gap along the sides. Some van dwellers use foam pipe insulation from any hardware store, cut to length and pressed into door frame gaps. It costs about $3 for enough foam to seal an entire van. The improvement is immediate and noticeable. Seal those door seams and the cold drafts that were constantly disturbing your sleep simply stop. Your body stops burning extra energy compensating for those tiny but relentless cold air streams. Veterans get creative with this. They'll use old weather-stripping adhesive tape along the inside of door frames, the same material used in house doors and windows. A full roll costs about $5 and lasts an entire winter season. Some experienced van dwellers do a lighter test before settling in for the night. They hold a lit lighter near every door seam and watch the flame. Anywhere the flame flickers, there's a draft. They stuff or seal every flicker until the flame holds perfectly still. Sounds obsessive, until you realize those tiny gaps are the reason people wake up cold at 2 in the morning, even when they've done everything else right. Plug the gaps, and suddenly everything else you've built works twice as well. Hot water bottle rotation. Something your great-grandmother used in 1920 is still one of the most effective portable heat sources ever invented. Hot water bottles. Those rubber things that look like they belong in an old hospital ward. A properly filled hot water bottle releases heat slowly and consistently over 4 to 6 hours. That's a gentle heater requiring zero electricity, making no noise, costing about $8 at any pharmacy, and lasting for years with basic care. The outdoor gear industry doesn't talk about them because there's no profit margin in something you buy once and use forever. The genius of this system for van dwellers is in the refilling strategy. Gas station bathrooms have hot water taps running 24 hours a day. Most fast food restaurants have hot water available at the counter if you ask politely. Some van dwellers carry 2 or 3 bottles, filling all of them during evening stops before settling in for the night. The rotation system works like this. 2 bottles go into the sleeping bag at bedtime, positioned against the inner thighs where the femoral artery runs close to the surface. Warming that artery sends heat through your entire circulatory system far more effectively than warming your feet or hands. When those bottles cool around 2 or 3 in the morning, the third bottle that's been wrapped in a towel maintaining its temperature gets swapped in. Continuous warmth through the coldest hours without running an engine or burning a single candle. The placement matters more than most people realize. Feet feel the cold most intensely, so instinct says put the bottle at your feet. But veterans know the inner thigh placement is dramatically more effective. Your blood is the distribution system. Warm the blood, and the blood warms everything else. By morning, those bottles contain water at a perfectly drinkable, lukewarm temperature. Van dwellers love anything that does 2 jobs with 1 purchase. $8, a gas station bathroom, and you've got a heating system that asks nothing from you except remembering to refill it. The buddy system. Nobody survives a genuinely dangerous winter night in a van completely alone. That's not pessimism, that's biology. The human body produces approximately 100 watts of heat at rest. 2 human bodies produce 200 watts in the same sealed space. That mathematical reality has kept people alive through winters that should have killed them. When temperatures drop into truly dangerous territory, experienced van dwellers pair up without hesitation, not out of comfort, out of survival calculation. The warmth benefit is significant and immediate. 2 people sharing a properly insulated van with layered sleeping bags can maintain comfortable interior temperatures at outside conditions that would be genuinely life-threatening for a single occupant. But the buddy system serves a second purpose that matters just as much as the warmth. One person stays semi-conscious while the other sleeps deeply. They monitor for danger. They notice if breathing patterns change. They can restart the engine in an emergency. 2 sets of eyes, 2 sets of ears, and critically, 2 people checking on each other at first light every single morning. Van communities that form in Walmart parking lots and hospital garages have taken this further than most people realize. They've developed informal cold-cool systems. During dangerous cold snaps, someone in the group sends a text check-in to every known van dweller in the area around 2 in the morning. A simple message, just checking you're okay. No response within 15 minutes triggers a welfare check. Someone physically walks over and knocks. It sounds like a small thing. For the people it saved, it was everything. And the psychological warmth matters just as much as the physical. Isolation during freezing nights creates a particular kind of despair that makes people make bad decisions. Another heartbeat nearby changes the entire mental landscape of the night. Cardboard floor insulation. Everyone insulates their walls. Everyone insulates their windows. Almost nobody thinks seriously about the floor. And that oversight costs them more heat than almost any other mistake they make. Cold ground doesn't just make your feet uncomfortable, it actively pulls heat out of your body through conduction at a rate 25 times faster than cold air does. 25 times. You could have perfect wall insulation, perfect window inserts, a layered sleeping bag system, and still wake up cold because the frozen ground beneath your van is draining warmth straight through the metal floor all night long. Cardboard is the answer, and it's available in unlimited quantities behind any grocery store, appliance shop, or electronics retailer on any given day. The key is layering. A single sheet of cardboard provides minimal insulation. 3 layers of cardboard, particularly the thick corrugated variety from refrigerator or appliance boxes, performs comparably to a budget foam camping pad. The air trapped in those corrugated channels is doing the same work as the air pockets in expensive insulating materials. The principle is identical. The price difference is about $300. Veterans stake out electronic stores on delivery days like it's a competitive sport. A refrigerator box yields enough thick corrugated cardboard to cover an entire van floor with 3 layers to spare. They cut it carefully to fit the van's floor exactly, tape the seams with any available tape to prevent shifting, and cover it with a tarp or plastic sheeting to protect against moisture. Because wet cardboard doesn't just stop working, wet cardboard actively conducts heat away from your body instead of blocking it, making your situation considerably worse than if you'd used nothing at all. Dry cardboard, properly layered, is a legitimate insulation solution. Experienced van dwellers have used it through multiple consecutive winters without spending a single dollar on purpose-built flooring. The newspaper blanket. Depression-era Americans figured something out during the 1930s, when survival wasn't optional and resources were essentially non-existent. They called it hobo insulation, and the name survived because the method survived, passed down through generations of people living without conventional resources. The material is newspaper, the technique is crumpling, and the physics behind it are the same physics behind insulation that costs 50 times more. A flat newspaper does almost nothing, but crumple it and stuff it between your clothing layers, and something remarkable happens. You've just created thousands of tiny air pockets throughout your insulation layer. Those pockets trap dead air. Dead air, air that doesn't move, can't carry heat away from your body. A single Sunday newspaper edition, the thick one, provides enough material to insulate a jacket, a pair of pants, and line the inside of shoes simultaneously. All of it free from any recycling bin on any street corner. The catch that nobody mentions is sound. Every movement creates a crackling noise, similar to walking through a pile of leaves. For people trying to stay invisible and quiet in a parked van at 2 in the morning, that crackling can be a real problem. Veterans solved this years ago. You wrap the crumpled newspaper in plastic bags before stuffing it between layers. The plastic eliminates the sound completely and adds another benefit that matters enormously in winter conditions. It waterproofs the insulation. Wet newspaper doesn't just stop working. Like wet cardboard, it pulls heat away from your body instead of trapping it. Dry newspaper wrapped in plastic inside your jacket layers is insulation that genuinely works. My grandfather stuffed his work boots with newspaper on cold nights and swore by it until the day he died. He wasn't wrong. Moisture control. Everything we've talked about so far, the window inserts, the candle heater, the layered sleeping bags, all of it operates on one assumption, that your van interior stays dry. The moment moisture enters the equation, everything changes. Wet insulation loses up to 40% of its warming ability. A sleeping bag that kept you comfortable at 20 degrees Fahrenheit when dry becomes dangerously inadequate at 30 degrees when damp. And the brutal irony of van living in winter is that the better you seal your van against cold air, the faster moisture builds up inside it. Every sleeping person exhales approximately 1 pint of water vapor per night. 1 pint. Trap that moisture in a sealed metal van with no ventilation, and by morning, you're waking up in what one experienced van dweller described to me as a cloud that actively hates you. Frost covers every window from the inside. Your sleeping bag feels damp. The cardboard floor insulation you carefully laid is absorbing moisture from below. Everything is working against you simultaneously. The solution requires 2 parallel strategies. First, silica gel packets. Those small pouches marked "Do Not Eat" that come inside shoeboxes, electronics packaging, and beef jerky bags. Veterans collect them obsessively, scattering dozens throughout the van interior, rotating them out when they become saturated with absorbed moisture. Second, the quarter-inch crack. You leave one window open exactly a quarter of an inch, just enough airflow to prevent condensation from building up, but not enough to lose meaningful heat. It sounds completely counterintuitive to let cold air in while trying to stay warm, but the alternative is sleeping in a moisture trap that systematically destroys every insulation layer you've built. The crack costs you maybe 2 degrees of interior temperature. The moisture it prevents from building up saves you 15. That math isn't complicated once you've spent one truly wet night learning it the hard way.
Engine block blanket. This last hack is the one that makes people stop and stare when they first hear it. It sounds too simple. It sounds almost ridiculous. And yet veterans of cold weather van living swear by it with an intensity that tells you everything you need to know about how well it works. When you park your van after driving, your engine block is holding a significant amount of heat. Depending on how long you've been driving, that metal block under your hood can retain temperatures of 200 degrees or more. Left alone, that heat radiates away into the cold night air within an hour or two, completely wasted, unless you stop it from escaping. The technique is straightforward. Before getting into your sleeping setup for the night, you open the hood and drape old blankets, sleeping bags, or any insulating fabric directly over the engine block, not covering vents or anything that could create a fire hazard, just covering the top and sides of the block, where the majority of heat radiates upward and outward. The insulating layer slows the heat loss dramatically. Instead of that stored engine heat disappearing in 90 minutes, it radiates slowly over 4 to 5 hours, bleeding warmth through the firewall and into the van's interior during the first critical hours of the night when you're first trying to get your sleeping set up to temperature. Veterans combine this with their parking position strategy. They park the van nose first against a wall or building, which both blocks wind from hitting the front of the vehicle and keeps the engine compartment heat in a more contained space. Some experienced van dwellers use purpose-cut pieces of rigid foam insulation, sized to fit their specific engine bay, cutting holes for anything that needs ventilation and covering everything else. The investment is about $12 in foam board and 1 afternoon of measuring and cutting. The result is an engine that holds its heat for 6 to 7 hours instead of 1. Combined with everything else in this system, that residual engine warmth filling the van interior during those first hours of the night makes the difference between a setup that barely works and one that leaves you genuinely comfortable when you wake up and check the thermometer outside. Thousands of people are sleeping warm in metal boxes on frozen ground tonight using exactly these 12 techniques, not because they had money for proper equipment, because they had time, necessity, and the creativity that comes from having no other choice